says, so he gets a little worried. I lost volume. What happened? Andrew, can you hear me? You muted me, Andrew. He's wrong.
So you're not muted now.
Of course. See, yeah. See, you can mute us anytime you want.
Yeah, see, that's what makes it good. Whenever you run the show, you can kind of just control the narrative, basically, is how that works.
Backlighting.
This is the Anglers Only meeting, right? This is where we're just going to talk about all the changes that we wanted to have happen but didn't happen.
Everything I saw was good. Leave them alone.
Well, I got to give them a little bit of a hard time.
I mean, only thing I would have liked to saw was I would have loved to seen a 30-day no information rule. I would have loved to seen that.
Well, you know, beggars can't be choosers ish. We got a few changes in the right.
No, we got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, without further ado, let's bring on Hank Weldon. Hank, thank you for coming on. I wasn't sure if you would actually come on or not. We are missing Todd Castledine, so you're not going to get hammered at least for a little while, probably.
I was going to say, yeah, I put you guys through the gauntlet. I hear a lot through the years. Yeah. Y'all can put me through the ringer for an hour, I guess. So
well, you know, it's funny. I got a message from Hank earlier, like about 20 or 25 minutes ago. He said, just saw the graphic about who's going to be on the show. Is this the gauntlet for me? And actually, before we even got here, I had to go take my wife lunch, and she was like, please take it easy on Hank today. Don't be mean or nothing.
That's all right. Hey, I'm here. Let's do it.
So we got a lot of changes for 2024. And honestly, there's a couple of them that I'm really excited about. And I just kind of skimmed the rules, you know, like most people do. And just to see what was different. But Hank, I'm going to kind of give you the floor. Talk about some of the bigger changes and what's going on. And obviously, we're going to have some comment on that.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I mean, all this stuff's really been, a lot of it's been in the works for, I would say, maybe the whole season, definitely after we surveyed you guys. So, you know, I don't know if the world really knows that, but we surveyed all the EQ anglers. We certainly wanted their feedback and just get an idea of how we bass can get better, because we know we're not perfect, even though all the anglers all the time tell us how perfect we are. You know, you guys. But no, so a lot of changes. And I would, you know, I want to give Chris Bowes and Chase and the whole board of directors some appreciation there for listening to us from listening to you guys. So, you know, I know, is it everything we wanted? No, but I think it's a step in the right direction. But you know, there's so much to cover. First off, we're starting off with we tweaked the off limits. I guess let's start at the bottom and kind of work the way up. And it's a 2-week off limits, but no info during that period. And the reason it went shorter, but no info, and there's no other way to say this, but that was from a co-angler side of things. We felt like it affected our co-angler numbers the wrong way. You know, and we wanted to encourage more co-anglers to fish for the opens for this year. So that was one of the main purposes. But we also, you know, we thought we made a right move last year for the 23 season when we went to the, 25 days, 26 days, something like that. No info, but you could are off limits, but no info. But we found, as anglers do, they find the gray areas, and you guys were very good at that. So, you know, we sharpened that up a little bit, and I feel like the move is not exactly where we want to be, but it's closer to where we want to be to get closer to that elite level off limits side of things. But we also have to look at the opens, not just from the EQ side of things, but from the division side of things too, and the co-anglers. But then, you know, we started tweaking with the payout. We knew that was obviously a big thing. And the first thing we locked and loaded was that AOY payout. And so that's an incremental. It's not coming from any of the, you know, the 71% payout or any of that. That is added to the pot. No greater expense to the anglers. And that's I think it's 110,000 total. If you look at first place prize on that, it's designed to pay for the AOY anglers elite entry fees for the next year. So that's why that number is at that $45,000. Now that angler can certainly spend that the way they want to, because it will be a cash prize to them, but that is why that number is the number it is. And then to award down through the top 10, I think it staircases down pretty well. The other thing was the payouts. And, we did have an entry fee increase, but the important thing of that entry fee increase, and I'm sure you guys know this already, we went up $200. We kept the deposits the same. The last thing we wanted to do was spring another, I think it was another $1,800 if we, increased our deposits with the way we increased the entry fee. But so we kept the deposits the same. But then the $200 entry fee increase, 100% of that goes back into the payout. There's nothing that, gets moved over to Bass, as, you hear that said. So it increases that percentage payback, which, I thought was good. And we moved the payout slots to a 1-in-5 ratio based off of a full field, which would be 45 places, but we'll pay 45 places to the field throughout the year. The payout you see online is based on 225. So, that is a full field advertisement. But if you're inside the top 10, you make 10 grand. You don't quite make as much if you come in second through sixth, but we've distributed a lot of that money down throughout the field. And if you're in 45th on a full field, you're making $4 grand. So double your entry fee. So, those are kind of the key highlights, unless if I'm missing something. I'm going a little crazy right now. I'm at the Redfish Cup running that event too. So we got saltwater guys out on the water. So I may seem a little cross-eyed at the moment, but was happy to finally roll it all out. We piecemealed it all to you guys. We'd roll out like the I forget what we rolled out first, the off limits, and then we rolled out the overview, and then we rolled out the payouts, and then we rolled out the rules, and then we buttoned it all up yesterday in a press release. So, but I'm glad to have it all out. So I'm excited. Again, I think it's a move in the right direction. Is it everything we wanted, or you guys want to know? But I feel like we're headed in a positive direction versus a negative direction.
Well, Hank, I really appreciate you explaining some of that. I actually really like the fact that y'all pulled some money from second to sixth and redistributed it. I think that's a really big move, because a lot of comments that we get, a lot of feedback that we get is it's really top heavy. The payout's really, really top heavy. And for years, Bass has paid only 40 places back, and now we're paying 45. I know it's not 50 or 60 or 70 like people would like, but at least we are going the right direction. We are moving in the right direction. We got an Angler of the Year payout, which, let's be honest, I actually saw a comment here. He didn't like the AOY payout. Top 10 is cleaning house anyway. But if you think of it from the standpoint, and this is the way I kind of think of it, if you think of it from the standpoint as those top 10 in Angler of the Year are going to be qualifying for the elites, that little bit of extra, even if a small $3,000, $10,000 deal goes a long ways in them paying their elite deposits, paying for their elite series. And ultimately, some of those guys might not even have sponsors yet. A lot of that's going to come out of pocket. So that is almost kind of like a down payment or a payment towards the elite series, in my opinion. I think it's definitely the step in the right direction. What do you think, Todd? You just joined us, late as usual.
Well, some of us actually have to go fish, so I'm driving it. I'm driving a Table Rock, so I had to find a place that actually had service. I didn't get to hear all of it. Sorry about that. I didn't get to hear any of the off limit stuff. I didn't get to hear the numbers on much about the payout stuff. What I will say though is, from the little I heard, that I think Angler of the Year, man, hey, I'm a guy who likes Angler of the Year, so I'm not going to lie. So I like that money in Angler of the Year. And I like it because I don't know if I'm fit. Like, I didn't fish all 9 this year, right? I missed out on Angler of the Year stuff by not fishing out on all 9. So I'm a big fan of tournament trails in general. And the biggest problem we have, not just in Bassmaster Opens, that's kind of not one of the deals, but in tournament trails across the country, the hardest problem people have are jackpotters and people only fishing the trail, like certain events. And bringing in Angler of the Years help the guys that want to support the trail throughout the year. So even though I might not fish 9, I don't know, I still think that that's a way bigger incentive for guys to fish all 9 of them. And so I'm always like, hey, reward the guys that are going to fish your trail and fish all of them. So I have zero problem sitting here going, I might not even fish all 9. I hadn't even looked yet, but I will tell you that like that's way more of an incentive for me too. So even if I don't, I still think it's the right move, even if I miss out on all that money.
No, I agree.
So
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at some of these comments.
I can't even read where are the comments at?
They pop up. They pop up.
If Todd says "hear me out," please press agree.
They are
That's
all
awesome.
about Todd. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, what do you think, Ish? What do you think?
I'm liking the direction that they're going. I'm liking everything that they're doing. That's why I'm a big fan of the EQs in general. I would personally like to see things a little bit more mimic closer and closer to the Elite Series, just because you're trying to prepare these guys, and being someone that's fished the Elite Series for over 10 years, it's a hard deal. It's not easy. There's stress on family, there's stress on time, there's stress on fishing. And so if you could start, hey guys, sorry, no information once we announce the lakes, that puts a different kind of pressure on these guys to actually have to go out and scout and be prepared, and then having 3 days of practice versus 5 days of practice. I mean, you can actually do a lot of in a 5-day practice standpoint. But when you have 3 or not even 3, it's 2.5 days, because you have to use part of that day getting your tackle ready before the first day of the tournament. Just being a lot closer to mimicking the Elite Series is what I would really like to see at the end of the day. But overall, I love the fact that they've increased the payout. I like the fact that, business calls for an increase in entry fees, and with them doing an increase, they actually did an increase in payout. The EQ AOY deal is super awesome. And, even for the guy who misses out on making the elites, he still gets a little bit of a check at the end of the day, and it helps him, for whatever, preparing for the next following year. So everything I see is good.
So we actually had a question come in. Is Bass considering doing a tournament circuit like the BFLs, or like a smaller division? I know that they've kind of restructured the nation to a certain level, but it's still not at that, 10 or 15 different divisions, 5 tournaments per division, whatever it may be. Is Bass have that in the works? Are they looking at possibly doing that in the future? I mean, as of right now, we have the nation, the opens, and the elite.
Right. No, so I can give you an easy answer. No. And purely because it just costs too much. I mean, we tried. You remember we dipped our toe in the weekend series years ago, and I don't want to say that failed, but it was enough to where we sold it off to ABA, and now they have all that equipment that we have. So if we were to do that, I mean, you guys know the manpower. I'm only one person. We have 4 tournament managers on staff, and we just don't have the manpower to run something like the BFLs. We don't have the equipment. You're looking at a multi-million-dollar purchase of equipment and salaries to even try and do that. So like you said, that's why the focus is on reshaping the nation. And I think people are going to see that. That's going to it accommodates 2 groups now. It accommodates the club angler, but then it also accommodates the Todd Castledine. You could get in that Muskogee Open as an at-large member and then qualify to the nation championship and a shot at 3 classic berths. So, it's not exactly like the BFLs, but it does give the grassroots angler an option. But no, a full-on fledged BFL trail, way too expensive right now for us to even consider.
Hanger, you've been oddly silent. What's your take on all this? What have you seen or not seen that you wanted to see? If that makes sense.
No, I definitely think the deeper payout is
necessary. I mean, I'm a guy that lives in the 30 to 50th place finishes. So for someone like me, I mean, I went back and did it like with those finishes. I've earned another $16,000 over the past 2 years, which would basically be like my entry fees for this had it been this payout structure as opposed what it was before. I also like the expanded live coverage, especially for opens anglers. We struggle to show our value to sponsors anyway, who are saying, hey, this is what we do for opens guys, this is what we do for elite series guys. To have those 9 days, I think is valuable. You look at a guy like Tyler Williams in just the 3 days that they had. I think he was maybe on all 3 or 2 out of the 3. You get a kid from Maine who's going to be on the elite series. He's kind of a well-known name now because he's been on FS1 for 3 days. Guys kind of get an idea of, JT is another option of that. So the more days, the more you can kind of show your value. So I think that was big stepping up. And that also had to be fairly expensive for Bass to commit to more live coverage days as well. Right, Hank?
Yeah. Once you mentioned it, I just realized that I didn't even mention that in the highlights. And that's like one of the biggest things.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, again, it's going to cost the Opens considerably more money next year to run the Open series. And you're right. But, man, super pumped about the 9 live days. As much for me, I don't have to find marshals for those final days. So I'm excited about that. And, small things that a tournament director has to do. But no, that's going to be awesome. And golly, think about the lakes we're going to be at when we're going to be at them. So, the Opens having, fall typically rates a little bit lower on the shows than early spring does. And we're going to start the season in front of the elites at Okeechobee in early February, and then follow back to Ish's most favorite one he's looking forward to Ouachita in mid-February.
That is the one I'm looking most forward to.
I don't like cold. That's why it's my favorite, because I don't like cold.
Well, get ready for next week, Ish.
Is it cold? Has it been cold? Are you cold?
It's going to be in the 20s.
Winter's coming.
All right, I'm not going. I'm staying home.
Just letting you know.
All right, appreciate that.
We actually had a question. How can you still enforce a no information rule once the schedule is out?
Hey, I don't want to interrupt. I want to ask about that because I didn't get to hear the rule. Can you maybe some guy?
Oh, I muted him. My bad, Todd.
Did
Yeah,
you
right.
say hear me out?
So what is that rule, Hank? What is your no information rule?
It's gone to 2 weeks, so 14 days before official practice. So that's a Monday. I'd have to go look. No information. So the answer there is you're no information now. You go from official practice to only being able to talk to competitors. Now you're 14 days back before that. So the no information rule actually period grew substantially.
I'd also want to point out that there are several new fisheries, specifically in that Midwest Northern division. And for a guy like me who has to make a long run, going to a 14-day off limits from a 30-day is massive, because that allows me to go to one, go practice at the next one, then go to one, go practice at the next one. And if it had been 30, it would have been impossible to do. Right. So I like that addition.
I want to ask Hank, get ready. How do you enforce that rule?
The no info rule, I'd hate to give you the cliche tournament director answer, but polygraphs, we'll bring those in. We did some this year. We're going to do more next year, if not at all. Randos, like we do with the elites. So that's the first thing. That's one of the toughest rules to enforce. You got to keep your eyes and ears to the ground. And, if we catch somebody, we'll, of course, enforce the penalty. Like I think y'all know we will.
You said that in the open EQ things, like, hey, we administered X number of polygraphs to X number of anglers and it was passed. So, you kept us up to date with the Thursday EQ emails.
Right. Yeah, you're going to see more of that. That's not really something I think worthy of a press release, but from a rule enforcement to the anglers, you're going to see that be communicated to you guys more for sure.
So, a big elephant in the room on everything for me is, with everything changing throughout the industry right now, if and when all these big changes come about, is there anything in the future for the Opens, like maybe an in-between trail from the Opens to the Elites, maybe an easier way to qualify or any other type of tournament trail coming in that's going to benefit, you know, I mean, because let's be honest, like we've had Ish come in, we got Bobby Lane, we've got a bunch of these anglers that are cycling through the opens right now. Is there anything in the works that moves forward that's going to help anglers?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I get it, and absolutely. You know, there's things we are constantly looking at, and you know, the one thing though we've learned is consistency is very easy to follow and expect, right? In terms of formats.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I saw that even back in the college and high school days when we would change formats, and they were changing a little bit at the very beginning, and you almost had to give it a year to get going. And then year 2, people knew what to expect. But if you changed it in year 2, then you went back to a year 1 or the year before success rate. So, you know, that's one of the things that I've said, you know, not talking about anybody else, but one of the things that we do, we offer that consistency to the anglers.
Mm-hmm.
We offer that fair treatment, you know, to the anglers. You know, I feel like y'all have a comfort in that, but I hope you do at least. But also to that end, yes, there's definitely a couple of things we've got that we're thinking about that I think everybody will like. It's gonna, you know, because again, we've got to look at it from a whole thing. We got to look at it from DQ angler,
yeah,
but also division anglers like Todd right now. You know, I don't know what you're gonna do, and then co-anglers, you know, what do you do with co-anglers? Because they're a great piece of our business too. So we've got to find that working model or models for everybody. And one of the big parts of that is the launch of this new Nation platform. I think that's very key to our success and what we can do with the opens. It leads directly into that.
For sure. And the reason I ask is because, like, I was talking to Todd about it the other day about, like, for instance, like what One Bass does out west, you know, how they incorporate almost a team format. They bring co-anglers in and pros in, and you switch every day, and it's a shared weight event. And it seems to be a really positive outlook across the board from pros to co-anglers. You know, I mean, because the deal is we've all heard it. Every one of us has heard it this year. Co-anglers complaining about forward-facing sonar, being back-ended, not being able to catch bass, whatever. But if you incorporate this, the co-angler is going to be the biggest fan that you have because they're like, hey, go catch fish because whatever you catch is going to count for me too. And I think it almost incentivizes that angler to do that. And, I mean, and I'm just from the outside looking in, like, have y'all ever considered a complete format change? I'm not saying, you know, but everybody does. Todd and I were talking about it. Everybody goes full circle. Everybody does the exact same thing all the time. And it's almost like this one cog, like we'll change one cog of the wheel and then it's all the same and all the same.
Right.
Anybody ever thought about going outside the box a little bit to change things up a little bit?
I think so. You know, I don't want to shed too much light on it, but, you know, I think there is an addition to the EQs that I think a lot of people are going to like. But we're a year away from that. So that's as much foreshadowing as I can give you there.
I mean, I was trying to catch you off guard and get you to spill the beans on something.
And Billy, like you said, Billy, those guys do a great job. The challenge with us there is you're dictated to the co-angler's size again, right?
For sure.
And our largest co-angler field this year was just a couple of weeks ago. 152 anglers. So that would have been the largest opens field we had because we would have had to have kept it that. So, you know, there's great ideas, but you've got to, you know, like you said, look around. Does this really work for our model? And I don't want to have to restrict the pro field to 152, right?
No, I completely get it. What do you think, Ish? You were about to, it seemed like you were going to say something.
No, I was just kind of going off of what happens to the guys that don't have the co-anglers, what happens to the guys, you know, the format. I like the format the way things are. You know, you're not relied on the
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
The co-angler. And then you got the co-angler, you know, he catches a 7-pounder and a guy who wasn't going to catch that fish all of a sudden jumps into the elites and then he doesn't have that help at the elites. So, overall,
we're gonna run some algorithms in our systems that track your co-anglers throughout the whole year. Right now, it's designed, Andrew. If you had a co-angler today, you maybe not. you don't have one tomorrow kind of thing. So, but it's going to be more season oriented than it is just event oriented.
Yeah. Hey, are the because so like by the end of the year, I was a proponent of shotgun takeoffs for all 225 boats. Like, how does that? No, I was like boat 180 or later on day one for like all 8 of the 8 that I fished. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is that like a random algorithm, or how does that
It
work?
is, yeah, I have argued with our IT department because it will be like there'll be a mat and a wheel and a wheel and a mat. You'll see like commonalities, I guess. Is that a word?
Yeah. Like me getting screwed on day one.
We do that to you on purpose.
I told how many times have I said that this year, Andrew? I told you all year long.
No.
Hank, I've saved you from so many like butt chewings in the mornings. he would get his number at night, like 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and he would fester on it all the way until the next morning. Would not sleep all night, and I'd wake up in the morning and I'd hear things going across the house, slamming doors, and I'm like, "What in the heck is going on?" And he's like, "I'm gonna go talk to Hank. I got another 181."
But see, do you so you clearly don't like the late draw on day one. I mean,
not when it's a sight fishing, when it's a spot deal, when it's a shad spawn deal. Like, I mean, there were like 6 of the 8 this year where
I will take 180
on Eufaula in Alabama
on day 2. I'll take 180 on day 2 every tournament.
100%. I'm game with that. And then, of course, we go to Thousand Islands where it doesn't matter. I'm like, boat 20. They're like top of the morning to
you. See, it doesn't happen every tournament, right? So.
No. I did have a question, though, and I know this has been talked about. Andrew, I don't know if you were going to bring it up, but one of the rule changes that's been talked about is the, like, straight-up purchasing of information. Waypoint purchasing. Hey, I don't know you. Here's $1,000. Give me your juice.
So the rules have you can't barter a fishing location from anybody, period. But it's only applicable to official practice and competition. Start throwing in there right now. At what point does our jurisdiction start? Right. That's the $1 million question that I really can't answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand what you're saying. But what if a guy goes out, and just to give you an example, Todd, you're good with this. A guy goes crappie guiding, right? And he finds on where we going next year. Give me a good crappie, like Eufaula.
Yep.
Everyone Eufaula next week, crappie guide, and they pay for a guide. They find a rock pile that is the juice in wherever in June for them. They win the tournament on it. Is that a rules violation? I don't know. And how do you draw that line? It's such a challenge.
What?
So the easiest answer is our jurisdiction starts at that 2 weeks prior to official practice for each tournament.
Okay. I think Todd was going to say something, and then right, maybe 50-50.
Now he has no volume.
He muted him.
This is the best show Todd's ever been on.
Yeah, Todd we cannot hear Todd.
First he's headed to the Toyota, right?
Yeah. Todd, can you hear us now?
No.
Nope. He's muted. He doesn't know how to unmute his.
He has a really good comment too.
And I think he does have a good comment.
Unmute, Todd. Unmute,
Just
Todd.
connect it from your car, Todd.
Can you hear us now, Todd?
Whoa, that says unmute. There we go.
My phone did this the other day, though, too. It just stopped working for me.
Hey, Todd, just get out of that and reconnect.
Did Hank just say he's gone too?
No, I can hear you.
Oh.
No,
Can you hear me? No, I said my phone did that the other day.
Oh.
Do you want me to answer that?
No, I understand. That's a difficult.
It's tough. Do I like it? Do I like a guy coming in and that becoming a rich person's game and just buying spots and being successful? Absolutely not. But
I mean, what about a 30? I mean, what about a regular off limits of the 2 weeks, and what about a 30-day no information
And you just buy it
Period.
2 months in advance.
I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, I feel like it's easy here. I mean, truth be told, I think it's really easy. After January 1st, there's no purchasing of any guide trips or any waypoints.
Yeah, I like that. That's easy. I mean,
right. If you're committed to the
On tournament
EQs, that's
waters.
what you're committed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you're committed, you're not going to go get a crappie trip. These guys aren't
Right.
going to go get a crappie trip.
Yeah.
Right. If you're committed, because there's so many other lakes to go to.
Yeah. So I mean, January 1st, it's super simple. Just say, hey, because you can't do it when the schedule's out, because that becomes such a, like, hey, I wasn't
Right.
even going to fish, and then, but if
Right.
you say, like, if they buy waypoints before then, anything could change. I mean, look at Sam
Right.
Rayburn as an example. You have water that fluctuates in the springtime, 5-10 foot, and somebody could get waypoints, and heck, it might be 10 foot of water on top of it by the time the tournament actually rolls around. So, it is what it is at that point. But
no, I like that. I like that January 1st deal.
they used to do it in the classic. The one classic I fished, I want to say it was off limits to the body of water after January 1st.
That's still the same.
Yeah. So I feel like it's super simple. Like, whole season, you can't hire a guide, you can't pay for waypoints for.
So you would think, again, just how we approach it. So you would think that is good, even though you start 4 weeks later for a tournament, but you've got a tournament that's 10 months later than that. You see, it's not an even time period, right?
No,
yeah, but a guy buying waypoints in December for Okeechobee, you're not worried about those waypoints at that point in time.
Yeah.
So that'd be the only one that would be kind of considered that is that buying waypoints. It was just the fact is you're going into right before practice, and a guy's basically called a guide like, hey, I know you've been out there guiding every day. What are you catching them on? Where are you catching them? I'll pay for a guide day, but I just can't go out with you.
Which is not exactly the case anymore with the 2-week no info.
Right.
So
yes. Right.
They help some, but
yes, it does. It does very much so. You back, Todd?
Todd? Are you back?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
we got
there
you.
you go.
You were gonna say something, and then
We never heard any words you said.
Well, I really wasn't talking that much, and it's not. I went on mute. I guess it just froze me out. The one I was asking Hank why that one was geared to me. I didn't know. I was like, you're gonna like this one, Todd. And you start talking.
I like it
because you're the premier regional
I
angler.
didn't know if he was talking about some guy thing, and I'm like,
oh no,
I got
no.
brought
I
up.
meant because
That got brought up Matt the other day, and Matt did a horrible job.
You've stumped me before with good questions, so that's that. I was throwing a Todd Castledine example of a scenario back. That's all that was. Yeah.
I'm listen. I'm not going to talk much on the info deal because I wish info was off limits for an entire year. I don't know. I think if you're buying information, then you shouldn't even be allowed to fish the opens. I'll flat out. So I'm not going to get into it because if you have to buy information to go fish a tournament and you're trying to qualify for the elites, you shouldn't be allowed to fish. That's just me. Everyone on comments can hate that take, but if you're trying to become a professional and have to pay someone to get there, I don't have really much to say about it. So I'm gonna keep quiet on that because I wish it was all off. As soon as the schedule came out, I wish there was zero information. I thought if we're trying to be professional, we're the only sport I know that professionals can buy their way or try to buy their way into that. I don't know how you call that. So I'm gonna try to remain as calm and quiet about that as possible. But that's just me. You can mute me now, Andrew.
What you got?
We lost Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew.
We got you.
You're back now. You cut out a little bit.
What were you gonna say, Ish? It seemed like you were gonna say something.
No, I'm in agreement with Todd. I would love to see, basically, like I said, mirror the elites. The announcements made of the schedule of the dates. You can't go and barter, ask, buy, get any information. You can go practice with, another competitor, but you can't just go out with a guide.
Yeah. I will say something.
Like
I do want to say something, Hank, to you. the one thing of everything is you had no recollection of what we were going to talk about on this show. Not one thing.
Oh yeah, no, you're
Not
right.
a single thing. Because he called me and was like, were y'all going to hammer me? I was like, it'll be good. It's all good. Don't worry about it. We're going to take it easy on you. He knew we weren't going to take it easy on you. No doubt.
I
But
haven't
at
said
least
anything wrong.
At least he
Okay.
listens. And they're making changes based off the angler's input. And that's one thing I will 100% commend you on, Hank, is y'all listen to us, even of our outlandish ideas. Y'all at least listen to us and think about it from a standpoint of y'all's business model to see if it fits. And I
don't
really appreciate that.
I don't see one negative change. There's not one, there's not one negative change at all. Everything is positive, and actually it's all positive for the anglers. It's the guys who wanted guys to stop buying information during the off limits. Now they can't do that anymore. You wanted a better payout, you got a better payout. You wanted an AOI, you got an AOI.
More coverage.
More coverage.
Now we can sell that to our sponsors. We get live every single event now. I mean, that's a really big deal for the Open.
I already had a sponsor that said that was big, that they saw more value in me already.
Yeah, the Opens guys are now going to be able to work hard and have an opportunity at getting sponsors, and the sponsors can see how they are on live coverage, which is huge for selling product. And if they can do that, now guys will be able to have careers. So the EQs are, a great way to go.
That was key. Yeah, so those 2 points I wanted to say. What you said, Andrew, angler input, and that one of the challenges we have is, and y'all know this, a lot of angler input is individualistic and self-preserving, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So you've got to kind of take those commonalities and put it together and make a decision that's sustainable. One. We don't want to do something that's here for a year, and next thing you know, we're in financial trouble and we're having to cut. So that's a big thing we have to do. But the other thing is, with that exposure and everything, you're looking at 9 guys. Everybody knows the math. 9 anglers move on to the elites. So the Opens need to become a landing place, what you were saying, Ish, to where you can build a career off of it. And, I get it. I know you can't build a career off the payouts that the Opens have, but they certainly are moving in the right direction. I lost probably more sleep about charging you guys $200 per event more, a whole other entry fee when you add it all up at the end. It's an additional entry fee to a tournament. It'd be like you fished 10 this year at 18,000. So, but I slept a little bit easier because 100% of that's going back to the payouts to you guys. So we're not making any money off of that.
Well, Hank, what I'll say is this: is when y'all ask opinions like that, there's a couple of things. One, I got a lot of wishes I want, but I know that that's not reality. So I'm not at all 1% mad that the rule that I want isn't in place, because I know that that's not reality. That's a wish, right? So that's what I've done with you is I've asked. We started off 3 years ago or whatever it was, and I brought up the off limits. I wanted, a big giant off limits or whatever, and you actually made it happen. For all them years we never had one, and you got it down to where it was somewhere, reasonable. And I was like, heck yeah, they listened. It might not be exactly what I wanted, but it was way better than what was before. So a lot of these things, like I said, I have a wish, but that doesn't mean that my wish comes true, but y'all have at least closed the gap. And so I will always applaud you on that. That's why I don't have I might be the most critical person on here, but I'm not critical about anything you've done. Y'all have done a great job. It was the only reason I asked about the info rule. I've been in this game a long time. I kind of laughed at the whole, how do you police it? Because, these guys are really great about trying to figure. All they do is they sit around and figure out how to get around that rule. So it's a very hard one to police. That's why I kind of laughed about it. I know you're going to try, and I applaud you for trying. But that's one of those rules that I kind of quit worrying about the no info rule a long time ago, because I've seen that rule broken a million times, and that's why I kind of laughed. I'm like, man, I've seen it broken a million times, and rarely does it get enforced. And I'm not saying it's anyone's fault, but it's just like after a while, after all these years, I'm just like, I just shake my head and just keep going because I'm like, it's hard to enforce, and and that's why it kind of sucks. But yeah,
I mean,
like I said, I just want to say you've done a good job, Hank, of continually trying to make things better. So I applaud you on that, and I don't really applaud. I didn't know any of this. You can ask Andrew. I don't research anything, so I'm learning about all this stuff right now, and it sounds good, man. It sounds like you've done a better job.
Yeah, you got on too late. You're rattling all the stuff off. So sounds like your dog has a question.
Is that what do you have? What are those? Hey, I will say this, Hank, and I've had some talks, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, but it makes sense behind the stage. So like you talk about, hey, we wanted to go to a shorter practice, and there's a certain instance where Bass has their hands tied and I don't know if this is going too deep into it, but you have contracts. So you're talking about 3 days of practice versus 5 days of practice, which is 350 guys that are spending an additional 2 nights in a hotel. That's 7 nights in a hotel. That's X number of gas. When they're making these deals to go to these fisheries, they make a deal with that Chamber of Commerce, with that city, and it takes time to implement those changes. So even though you might want to see a shorter practice, you're saying, hey, you can't just go to the chamber that you already have a deal with and say, hey, just kidding. It's only going to be 70% of what we told you it was going to be because we changed our rules. So some of that make time. It's the same thing with off limits too. If that's also built into, hey, you're going to have guys that are coming to this fishery beforehand. You're going to have guys that are on that fishery. Then you also have to deal like on a lake you follow. You have a bunch of guys like me. I mean, I'm going to fish a lot of local tournaments on that. You do have guides that fish all 9. You have, I just had Kyle Austin on. He guides on Santee Cooper. What are you going to tell him that he can't make a living on that fishery for 3 or 4 months just so he can fish a 2-day open there? Like there are a lot of guys who make their living on around the water and fish other tournaments. So I've never been a fan of the elite series. Can't have other people out there fish, do that stuff on that body of water up until, I mean, I'm good with the 30 days, with the 2 weeks, whatever that is, but I don't like the whole year-long deal just because it isn't the elite series.
Right. I think that's what you're learning though too, is even on this call, you see the different things that work for each
but
person.
Ish is in a different stance. And I mean, Ish is a top tier professional bass angler who's made his living at it.
Your reason is fair, and Ish, your reason's fair. So it's just that's the challenge.
And I mean, and I don't want the guys to stay off the lake. I understand that. I just don't want them bartering for information. The schedule comes out, and all of a sudden they're making their phone calls ahead of time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fair. But no, you're right. And Pangrac, you're right on the host. Let's just put it this way. The RFPs, that stands for Request for Proposal, for all your viewers who don't know that, have been adjusted to a much shorter practice period. I mean, they're out for 25. That's the thing. You are what, 2 years ahead with sending out RFPs to a lot of places. I've been working on Leech Lake since we had the college championship in 2018 in Bemidji, Minnesota, and finally got it done this year. So
hashtag harvestable rice.
Very aware.
That's gonna be a possible nightmare situation.
You just can't go in the rice.
For that one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We were looking at June. Or
what do you mean it can't go on the rice?
Can't go in the rice, Ish. Especially at all. Even, I mean, there's the harvestable rice. They're gonna have people out there with guns that are chasing you down. There's gonna be arrests. There's gonna be high-speed chases through the rice. It's gonna be chaos.
Really?
No, it's not gonna be that bad. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It looks like, the way I understand it, and somebody will probably correct us on this podcast, but it's well and topped out at that point. It's a lot like Thule's. You can see it, and you just can't go into it. You can throw into it. You can't take your trolling motor into it.
So fish the outside edges, basically.
I've had a long discussion with the DNR there for that stuff. The lake's huge. It's like 104,000 acres. I can promise you there's other spots.
How hard was it to put that schedule together? That's a part of the country that has been, I won't want to say neglected, but there's been a lot of talk about that Wisconsin, Minnesota area. And then to have a whole series up there. I mean, have you already seen massive response from those anglers in that
Yeah,
region?
it's been pretty good. The challenge with Minnesota, as y'all know, if you've ever been up there, is access. There's not a lot of huge ramps up there. You know, we're going to even Walker, Minnesota, where we're going out of. It's a pretty good sized ramp, but we're going to have. It's going to be a lot like Watts Bar, several different spots where you're putting in and coming over. But yeah, I mean, you know, Wisconsin, La Crosse, they're great folks. They do a good job. And getting back to St. Clair, we said we wanted to go to the Midwest because we haven't had a you know, I want to call them Northerns because, you know, we're calling them divisions 1, 2, and 3. For any sponsors out there that want a title division, please contact our sales department.
The sponsor plug got in there.
That's awesome.
So
That's so good.
you want a division named after you? It is available. Do not call me though. But yeah, you're right. We wanted to do that, and for all the New York guys, trust me, we'll be back. We'll probably be back in 25. There's too many good.
What about the Western? What about the Western?
That's what I was literally about to ask. Are we ever going to go back out west? At least to Havasu. I mean,
we have a Western play in our card. It's going to be more of a nation play, but we do have that. Yeah,
that doesn't help. Doesn't help unless I can fish it. Can I fish the nation?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
actually.
you can.
Okay.
Like a 4 corners open division next year. We go Washington, Southern California, Florida, Thousand Islands.
I'd love to go to Coeur d'Alene or somewhere like that. It'd be awesome. So
yeah, Coeur d'Alene, Clear Lake. Clear Lake's phenomenal. We got
if we
lots
go
of
west,
water.
it won't be stereotypical Cal Delta Clear Lake though. I want to go somewhere that's not normal, like Columbia River, somewhere like that.
Hey, they say Columbia River is amazing.
Well, Columbia River is amazing. The problem is it's you think New York's far. Columbia River's far for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, we had
River. Yeah, gotcha.
Havasu, but that's an elite stop. You know, Powell would be cool.
Powell would be cool, definitely.
Yeah. I'm stuck on Havasu. I just think it'd be so awesome to take an open out there.
The Havasu.
What we call Southern. We call it a Southern. We call that one Southern Open.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I mean, you would definitely have some people pissy about it, but they're always mad about something.
It's like just need some lakes in Colorado, Wyoming, right? There's none right there. You have to go from Oklahoma all the way to Utah. So there's just not a filler there. That's the problem too. But I'll tell you, even our Western regional this year, we had a nation was like pulling teeth to even try to get a contract signed for free. I'll point that out too, for free. So.
Well, guys, y'all have any other questions for Hank? I know he's the tournament director. You're the tournament director at the Redfish.
Yeah. Hey, this group's awesome, man. They're laid back and
it's only like 12 teams, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. No, we're good. You said an hour. We're 12 minutes early.
Well, I said 30 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
I was giving everybody kind of last shots at you, open shot. Just in case Todd had something he wanted to hammer you on or something.
I don't have
spinning rods for next year. I mean,
what about this Bass boot camp thing that I can't be a part of? I don't like that. I want my entry fees paid to the opens, the EQs.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It's something our marketing department's doing, right? I'm not exactly sure on what all the details are there.
That's the AFCO Bass Boot Camp ish, which is back for the first time since 2019. You can go to AFCO.com if you are an Opens EQ registered angler, but not a professional angler. You have to be one of your first or second years in. They'll cover 16,200, and then you have to document it on AFCO.com through a video series.
Why can't I be a part of it?
What am I not? I know info about it. And he asked about it, Todd. Am I not supposed to give the info?
No, it wasn't about the info. Is I want to be able to be a part of it. I can't be a part of it.
Well, in 2013, we had 32.1% of
Hey. So I have a question for you guys. So we had 173. We had 173 EQ anglers sign up last year. So let's set that as the over-under. Where are we in 24?
Under. I'm calling under on that.
It shouldn't be under, but it's going to be. I mean, if things were in a different state in the industry, the economy, I would definitely say you could probably fill that 225 with EQ guys. But with the state of the industry right now, no, I'm going to go under. And it's not your guys' fault. You guys have done
Oh, no,
everything
yeah, no.
possible to increase it. And like I said, everything you guys have done is positive and great. It's just state of the world and the economy right now.
That's what I mean. I think we'll be under 2. We were hoping for 100 in year 1. Just full
Oh, I knew
disclosure.
you were going to be over on year 1.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come back to reality. I think that was probably as far as first year. But now I say that, and we're going to have live every single event, so that kind of changes things too. So, I mean, I don't think you're going to be far off. I just don't think you're going to be quite at 170. I think you'll be like 150, 160.
Yeah.
And that fell to the 130, I think is what we fished at Harris Chain of those 173.
That's impressive.
But, I think it did its purpose, though, too, Pangrac, in that it showed anglers what a 9-event season commitment was, and that's was one of the goals we set out to do, was to show them an elite-like event season to commit to. And I think it's unfortunately served that purpose, but only cost an angler an Opens amount of expenses versus an Elite Series amount of expenses to go and do it. So I think it'll be under 2. That's my vote. I was just curious y'all's thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's going to be like 150 if I had to guess. What do you think, Todd?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think it'll be, well, bass fishermen are not the brightest individuals at times. So I only say that I think a lot of people, when we do a lot of these podcasts or whatever you want to call them, you have a lot of comments on there, and they're not dumb comments. They're just a little bit maybe naive comments, because they really don't understand what it's like. I've probably had 10 phone calls in the past 2 weeks from fishermen asking me what they should do next year. Like there's the Opens, there's the Invitationals, there's all these things. And I'm like, hey, look, you're looking at it, I'm telling them one thing and they're asking about the wrong thing. And I said, look, man, sometimes it's not about the money. Sometimes it's not about all these things. It's like, you have no idea what it's like to go out there and try to do this all over the country. No matter what you do, Hank, and it's not your fault, you can never supply enough money to make it to where someone's going to go make a living on the Opens. So they have to understand that. And I'm like, so everyone's in a different spot. You had guys out there that had zero care if they ever got a check. I'm not knocking any of them. I was trying to explain to these guys. There's guys out there that no worry in the world. They don't care if they ever made a check. Everything's paid for, and that's okay. But these guys that are calling me aren't like that. And I said, so you got to understand, what are you giving up to go do this? And I said, some guys, and we've done some stuff with Matt Steffen. Matt lived in a part of the country where he can't do he can't go do what I do. Where I have an opportunity to go fish for large amounts of money in Texas. My situation is different than so many other people in the country. So I'm like, you have to figure out, like, what are you giving up to go do this? And that's a different question than they're worried about the fishing part. And I'm like, man, you're asking all the wrong questions. And it's a very hard, for me, I've got a wife and 2 kids. For a lot of people, they don't have anyone at home. And so it's, for them, they can just roll out whenever they want to. I'm over here trying to fix a leak at the house on the phone, sitting in a Waffle House over there, driving my butt to Table Rock. I mean, it's just people have different priorities. So I just think it's going to be a little less. I think some guys figured out what it's really like to go do that. And I always said that is although people might not like it because they're like, man, it costs more money and it's all these things, it doesn't let the working man get into the elites. Well, I mean, but it gave you a better idea of what it's going to be like. So I was always in favor of it, even though it didn't necessarily help me any. Like it didn't make me want to go, do it every year. So
this is a good question. Can an angler live stream during a tournament for pay-per-view for their followers, subscription followers? And there was a follow-up saying it's a slippery slope to live stream individually because you can't control the information. So basically, an angler could not access the chat.
Right.
I mean, I don't feel like it'd be against the rule. And you answered. I mean, your term director. Could you actually?
I need to go read the rule, but I think you're allowed to post to social media during a tournament, but you can't actively in social media.
Engage.
So
you can't engage. Yeah, you can't actively engage.
It has to be its own, like, it's just got to be the camera on you, period.
Right. We would take jurisdiction, though, if we had the camera on you. So if you had live on you, it would be through our channels. So
right.
I need to go read the rule, though, but it says it. The rule answers it.
Read the rules, everyone. Read the rules.
I have to do it.
It is. It's important because every time you think you know something, you got to go read it. So my last question before we get off here, obviously y'all have created a board on the Elite Series for forward-facing sonar. I mean, we've been hammering on it and getting hammered by it as of late. Are y'all going to have the same type of board or discussion as far as the opens, or
it's applied to all platforms?
Is it applied to okay?
Yeah,
let's say, for instance, y'all see some numbers changing, or like it's not a positive outcome. Yeah. Is there a potential to see it banned mid-season, or would it just happen for 2025?
No. I mean, we've always maintained, and obviously something could change, but from a tournament department, that goes all the way back to Ray Scott. We would never change the rules mid-season. The rules are the rules. Cool. They could amend a little bit before the start of this season, but that's not going to change. That rule is staying the same, Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, they're going to really be looking at everything. I don't know where that's going to go. I will tell you the amount of time we spent reviewing it was a lot.
Hey, this is my only other comment, and I don't dislike live scope. Like I could care less, but I'll tell you from a fan standpoint, probably not the fan that you want to hear from, but if you just banned it for one tournament in the elites, not even the opens, just the elites, I'm telling you right now, I am in. I'm watching every second of that, not for the same reason anyone else is. I'm just telling you, I'm watching it. I talked to another guy today who may or may not be on the elites, and we were both laughing about it. Going,
may or may not.
Yeah, I'm just saying he's a guy that's up there, and we were dying laughing, going, dude, would that not be the most entertaining show? It just because not even the fishing part, just the drama part of it all, and the comments and the viewership from the fans. It would be. I'm telling you, it's the most brilliant idea. Just one tournament, and I'm telling you, it would be your most viewed tournament. Not because the drama part of it would be phenomenal. It would be unreal
on a smallmouth fishery.
Like go to
taking notes this whole call, and I just wrote that down. So
I'm telling you, it would be insane. They would be commenting left and right and arguing, and then I'd just be watching. I'd be over here making side bets, going, "Who you got? Who you like?" What's that guy doing? I wonder if that guy's ever gone down the bank throwing something. It would be awesome, dude.
I mean, I would love to see like a Champlain largemouth only, no forward facing sonar tournament. I would watch every second of that show, 100%.
It happens.
Largemouth only.
Bean River.
Largemouth only Champlain tournament.
Oh, Champlain.
Oh, Champlain. Okay. That's what I was about to ask. Is that a largemouth only lake, or is it a lake with other species?
Yeah,
Thousand Islands.
I mean, like a place that
St. Clair.
St. Clair. St. Clair. There's not enough largemouth areas.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Yes. It would jam a bunch of people in.
You can't go into Walpole. The Walpole Refuge, it's closed.
Oh, it is closed? Oh.
Yeah.
It sucks.
I think you can thank Canada for that. Yeah.
Ish would be calling me up going, look at this guy throwing a frog on Monroe. Look at this, Todd. Look at
this. Hey, this is actually a good question. And we've been talking a bunch about it lately on some of the stuff that's been going down, but I was part of an angler committee that one of our big ideas was to somehow figure out a way to make it where you could actually bet in Vegas on bass fishing and taking anglers individually and doing like beyond just like what our fancy fishing is right now, but make it even larger than what it is. Is that even on the table? Is that in the works at all?
You asking me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not asking Todd.
No, horrible idea.
Dude, you're talking to like someone that like barely understands sports lines. I mean, when I said the over/under a second ago, I was like, that's like all I know about betting. I don't know. I don't think the casinos would be interested because it's not going to move the needle. They're not going to take enough bets, right?
It's too volatile.
Right.
No, you can bet on hot dog eating contests. The problem is you can't standardize it. You can't make odds on fishing because too many uncontrollable variables.
It's such a horrible idea because what'll happen is you'll get guys like Panger and he'll lose so much money. I mean, look what he's done in the in the fantasy deal. You know what I'm saying? It would be horrible. Guys like him might not have a job. I mean, we'd be having to have him in AA. It's a bad idea. Bad idea.
Anglers Anonymous.
Hey Todd, you really can't.
You've
been spotted with a spinning rod a lot lately.
Yeah.
I mean,
and a pink worm on it. You've been spotted with some weird colored worms.
And a spinning rod a lot.
And you have a genuine smile on your face, which means deep down you like it.
I've been spotted with a few checks lately too. So.
Oh, ouch! Hold on. One for Todd.
All right, I gotta go. I gotta go.
Well, guys,
see you on Sunday.
Thank y'all for coming on. I appreciate y'all coming on. Hank, thank you so much for taking the gauntlet of questions. We really, really appreciate your time.
It's fun. I like it.
So.
Yeah, thanks, Hank. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, guys. Appreciate y'all.
See you in a couple months.